Good morning and welcome to Bagels and Business for Breakfast. I'm going to be on a liquid diet for about an hour. That's all I can last.
Oh,
Hello, and good morning. It's Sharon Taylor, CEO and founder of the Business Vision and Development Center. And one of the most frequent questions I get is how do I get a grant? How do I get the free money? How do I qualify for a grant? How do I write a grant? Grant. So, anyway, I thought I'd take some time to talk about a grant, and I'm going to just read you the definition. A grant is a fund given by an entity that is usually public, or it could be a charitable foundation, or it could be an individual to someone or some cause that they think deserve some money that they don't have to pay back. That's the long and short of it. A grant is money you don't got to pay back. So that's why typically everybody is looking for grant money because you don't have to pay it back. That's the main reason. And I'm going to let punt to Yvonne in a minute because she's real familiar with the grant process. When she gets through, I'm going to give you a website where they have numerous grants listed that you can apply for and the types of grants that they have. But for right now, Yvonne, tell us, how you've experienced the grant process and how to get people grant ready.
all right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's Yvonne Lorraine, Innovative Visions, here to share with you some grant information. Like Sharon said, a lot of times people are asking about grants. And one of the things that I'm going to share first is that most grants, and I'm not saying all grants, but most grants are for charitable organizations. There are some out there for profit as well, but the majority are there for the charitable organizations. And if you want to get a grant for your nonprofit organization, one of the first things you do need to do is make sure that you are incorporated and have your 501c3. You need to have that. Although some organizations will allow you to go ahead and apply if they know that you're in the process. So that would be for you to talk to that grantor or get in touch with them to see if that's the case.
I got
If
a
you,
question for you, Yvonne, before you move on. Tell
yes,
them
ma'am.
what a 501, what 5013C means.
Well, it's 501c3.
C3. Thank
Yes.
you.
And that is actually your nonprofit status. Just like if you're for profit business, you have your LLC. So this is getting your organization incorporated as a nonprofit organization. That's how you get your federal number as well.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. So if you want to apply for a grant, you need to, best practice is one, to make sure you have your 501c3. Number two, make sure you have your finances in order. That's very important. They want to know that you have a system in place. If you are just starting and this is your first time, some places will accept like the Excel spreadsheet. They'll accept something like that, and your officer will have to sign off saying that this is the information being correct. But some won't. Some of them want you to have your whole system in place. Like you may need to have QuickBooks in
Mm-hmm.
place for you in order to even apply. So first I'm going to say make sure you have your house in order before you apply. And the third thing I'm going to say that's important on the top is if you're a nonprofit organization, that means you should have a board of directors, right? If
Okay.
you have a board, your board should also be financially supporting your charitable organization. because they're going to say, why should we give you money when your own people are not even financially supporting?
I got a question for you, Yvonne.
Yeah.
And when you were saying, like, if you're like, a lot of businesses come to me, they just got incorporated, they just got their 501(c)(3). Always want to say
C3.
3C.
C3, Sharon.
They just got their nonprofit status.
It's early.
3C, C3.
C3, 501c3.
See the number 3. See the number 3. Say that 5 times. So anyway, my question to you, if you know, and they come to me and they're early on in their business, it's difficult for them to get a grant because they haven't established themselves as a business. They haven't generated their revenue. And so when you first started your C3 nonprofit organization, do you remember the first grant that you applied for and how that went?
I remember very well, Sharon. I want to say the first grant that we actually applied for, we received to support our summer camp program.
Okay.
So a lot of the grantors want to know where their money is going. So what's important for people to understand is you really should already be doing the work. So we had already been doing summer camp.
Oh, so sort of like past performance. You have some history of performing this type of work that you're looking for a grant to subsidize.
Yes, a lot of them are that way, unless they specifically say for startup.
Okay,
that may be different too. So yes, and I remember we got that grant. I don't remember the dollar amount, but we were so excited we could feed our kids. We had a place to pay for summer camp that year, and that kicked it off for us. And because once you start and do your first one, it gives you some meat to get started for your next one as well.
Right, because I've found that typically they ask, especially if you get a grant in the same industry, they ask for a lot of the same information. So once you get that first package together, you can always pull from that for the next package.
Well, that is the case with some, Sharon, but people get that, they misunderstand that part. It used to be very cookie cut at one time. No longer. I guess they caught on to that. It's like, you really have to read the questions and answer the questions. The only part that I find fits everywhere is our vision, our mission, and our history.
Right.
After that, this sky's the limit on what they ask you for. And all that fluff and stuff, they don't want to hear all that fluff that people used to do. Because one more thing I would recommend is to, if you apply for a grant, is to let somebody in your organization or someone outside of the organization who doesn't know anything about your organization read your application. If they have questions, then the people at the table trying to determine if they're going to give you their money, they may have questions too, but they're not going to call and ask.
Yeah, they're going to say next.
Exactly.
Now, my next question to you is, okay, you applied for the grant, you read it, you filled it out, you submitted it, you got it. So what would you recommend people about the reconciliation process, reconciling the money, where it goes when you get it? Because I know that people will get it, they'll get the deposit, they off spending without really putting it in the place that it's supposed to go and not creating line items for record keeping. So how are you with that when you do your grant management, when you receive a grant?
Yeah, it's very important to make sure you're using the money for what they gave you the money for. So that's where having your system in place. So you should already have a line item. If some grants are reimbursable grants, so you have to spend the money first, and then they reimburse you.
Right.
So they are very specific about where and how they want their money spent. And every grant requires some type of reporting. So
Okay.
you're going to have to report, and some of them may also request to do an audit at any time. So if they do auditing, they want to see where the money is going. They want to see the invoices. You have
Yes.
to see the receipts to those
Yeah.
invoices.
Yeah.
So they're not just throwing away money and giving away money. That's one thing for sure. If you get a grant, you need to be very clear about what you applied for, what they approved you for, and make sure. And you really need to have somebody when it comes to the money. I definitely recommend having somebody on top of your finances who is watching and taking care of that part.
Well, thank you, Yvonne. So I'm going to share with you guys the U.S. Chamber of Commerce lists numerous grants throughout the U.S. and some of them they're all categorized, and they have stimulus aid, government grants, government contracting assistance grants, natural resources, general small business grants, and industry specific grants. So what I will do is post a link to them at the bottom of this video and on our social media pages. And I went through some of them, and they are pretty decent. I found a category for almost everything that is a legitimate business. They're not giving grants to cannabis too much unless you're into the research and development or gambling or anything like that. But they do have a lot of grant opportunities out here. The other thing I like to recommend is people will shoot grants off to me and say they want to apply. You need to read the requirements. Some
Exactly.
of them say you need to have been in business 5-10 years, and so you're not eligible. So read the requirement, take your time, sit in a quiet space, because like Yvonne said, it's not as easy. It's easy, but it's not. You got to do your work to get this money. You got to do your work.
Yes, Sharon. One more thing I would just throw out there, because when we first started, I definitely thought that getting a grant writer was the trick to all of that.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And what I found out is that there are not a lot of grant writers out there, to be honest. So I just want to recommend for those organizations, if that's what you're thinking, to not sit back and wait until you get a grant writer. There are plenty smaller grants that everybody you can start with, like Home Depot. They have some grants for projects.
Lowe's has a lot of grants.
Mm-hmm.
Walmart, Target.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up grant writing, because I'm not opposed to grant writing because I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I still have to go to the business owner to get the information. So what is happening is the business owner is paying someone to write up something that they already have the information. But I understand it's just like test taking, and some people just don't want to write. And I understand that. And I'm not trying to put any grant writers out of business. But if you are equipped to write about your business, then I suggest at least take a swipe at it before you punt it off to somebody else. Take a swipe at it, and you may be surprised how well you do.
Yeah, I agree, Sharon. It's just one of the things maybe with smaller nonprofits, time consuming. So if you don't have the resource as far as your personnel, people in place, Time is everything. So for us, that was one of the things. Even when I started, it can be very time consuming because sometimes you have to attend pre-trainings to even apply for a grant, and then go through the whole process. So we're not putting y'all grant writers out of business. We're just saying, can we find some more grant writers?
Contact the BVD Center, info at the Business Vision Development Center.org.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Yvonne.
Yeah, so to get started, I think that's a lot. I mean, because if somebody's just getting started and want to be prepared and ready, if you're going to be the person writing the grant, there's plenty of grant writing training. Also, training never hurts. I always, push.
You are trained up
in every area.
Trained up,
right? So yeah.
And thank you again. And so again, the website I'm going to drop in the comments section is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. There's also grants.gov, where it's more focused on government grants. I'll drop that in there too. I'm glad you came over and had some breakfast with us this morning. Yes. Getting ready for your business week. And we will see you again next Monday at 7.
Yes. Bye.